Well, the Miami Heat.
Oh, boy.
They should get Jimmy Butler more involved in the offense to bring him his joy, give him more joy. As he said after the game, I guess that's his resolution, be happier.
To get out of Miami.
Yeah, well, he said, I am open to going anywhere now. And apparently he's asked the front office to trade him. But I do think, despite him being unhappy with his way that he's playing on the floor, how much he's shooting, I don't think the Miami Heat do end up trading him. It has been a few odd weeks here. I mean, it started December 21st versus OKC. In the first quarter, Jimmy Butler turned his ankle, left the game with an illness, air quotes illness, and then 2 games not with the team because of that illness. Then the following 3 games, he had to return to competition reconditioning, so he didn't play for 5 straight games. Then New Year's Day, he finally made a return. 9 points, 5 shots, 24 minutes, sat in the fourth quarter by Eric Spoelstra, who was just trying to get the best players out there. Then the following day, January 2nd, yesterday, when he had that post game where he said, I got to find my joy, again, against the Pacers, where they were bombed. They were killed. 9 points, 6 shots, 26 minutes, didn't play in the fourth again. So the post-game press conference, he said, I felt like I did my job, or whatever my job is now, because he's kind of hanging out in the corner. He said, I haven't done that since like my first 3 years in the NBA. My usage is down. I don't shoot as much. He's looking to get his joy back, as he said. And then it was interesting to hear Tyler Hero, who is the joy of this team right now, because he's balling. He was asked about Butler immediately. It went straight from the post-game press conference from the desk to him in his locker room. He said, Butler, he was told, Butler was told that he's looking for his joy. Hero just laughed. He just wearing that big plaid shirt with buttons on the sleeves, a weird shirt. And then he asked him what could get him more involved. He said, we tried to get him involved. He asked if the vibes are good. He said, the vibes are great. I'm looking forward to going to have a good night. Again, after getting killed by the Pacers, and that's where his mind was. But do the Heat want to trade Jimmy Butler? I don't think they get enough back for Jimmy Butler. I think they would rather have him on this roster and try and push forward into the playoffs and try and get a good team going, because I think the Heat have, they have a tiny bit of leverage here because he's got a player option for $50 million. We know Jimmy Butler wants a big contract, but I think the leverage there is, if you want to get paid $50 million, you stay here and you play decently, and you can get that from right here instead of becoming a free agent. It's been a long few weeks, and I think they've kind of been working through this since, I guess, again, December 21st. I had like Kobe flashbacks in 2006 in that playoff series against Phoenix Suns where he didn't shoot. I mean, where he wasn't happy in that
sulking.
Game 7. So Jimmy's doing that, but again, really weird how he leaves with an illness. Has this thing where he's not playing fourth quarters, kind of not shooting as much, and not running out there as much, not playing in fourth quarters. So they've been working through this. I think this has been going on for a while, and I think eventually he just puts up as much as possible. I guess the Heat are talking to people.
Jimmy Butler is going to put up with as much as possible?
A little more. I mean, he's not a number one guy. His history of 2 weeks?
No, his history with every team he's ever been on before.
Yeah, it happened with the Bulls, happened with the Timberwolves. It didn't really happen with the Sixers, though he did have beef with Ben Simmons and Brett Brown, I do believe, and now it's happening with the Heat.
Jimmy Butler is butthurt. Case closed. He's upset with, obviously, the comments Riley made after last season, sort of calling out, like, hey, man, if you're going to be a superstar, you got to be here. And you're talking all this crap, like how we would have done this and would have done that, but you weren't there. So I think that was the start of all this. Then, of course, the no contract extension. That's a huge part of it. And then, these weeks leading up where Shams is saying, he's sort of asking to be traded. Suddenly his agent saying, no way, bullcrap. Then, my God, Pat Riley has to come out on December 26th and say, we are not trading Jimmy Butler. Now, you can roll your eyes if you want at that. We've heard many front offices do that before because we're not trading Jimmy Butler because we don't like what everybody's offering right now.
Yeah, what are they getting for him? That's the question.
Well, sure, we can get into that. But
are they going to go forward and say, hey, we're going to have half of Jimmy Butler play for us this season? I mean, what are they getting for him? Like Jimmy Butler for Zach LaVine works. But
it does. They did it once upon a time in Chicago.
I mean, straight up, it works. But do they?
The thing for the Heat is they would be doing it to keep their books looking good and not have the Jimmy Butler $50 million contract next year. The Heat are a team that actually gets free agents, so they can actually use cap space if they were able to get it. He's like 10 years older than Tyler Hero, 8 years older than Bam Adebayo. Like, it feels like the Jimmy era has kind of run its course in Miami. They've had 2 awesome runs in the postseason, but that's hard to bank on every single year. You guys know what I say about Jimmy Butler. He wants to work hard and be the man. He's not the man in Miami. He's third in usage rate amongst the starters. And when they talk about who the standard bearer is for Heat culture, it's Bam Adebayo. Jimmy Butler is the second fiddle on the court and off the court. He doesn't like that, saying, get me out of here. Good news for hair salons. He'll go to any team, any color available.
Well, yeah.
The interesting part is which team thinks that he can be a number one guy right here, right now. It's a lot different than when he was traded from Chicago, a lot different than when he was traded from Minnesota, where teams said, oh, yeah, this is prime Jimmy. I mean, what are teams giving up for Jimmy Butler at 35 years old?
Right. Well, in the case of the Warriors, they're not trading for Jimmy Butler to be the man and the number one guy.
Sure, but they're going to give up Kuminga for it?
Yeah, would have to. Yes, absolutely.
They would have to, but are they?
They would be happy to get rid of Kuminga. I think Wiggins would be the bigger issue for them. But I do think the Warriors makes the most sense for Jimmy Butler. Or if he really wants to be the man, I don't think this is the right move. But the Rockets could go after Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. They need a closer in the fourth quarters. He would be awesome for that team. But they should do what the Thunder did and just kind of hit pause, see what happens.
Yeah,
that's way too old for them. I agree.
Yeah, the new wrinkle to this Jimmy Butler sort of trade rumor intensifying last night was that part that you slipped in there, like, hey, I'm open to playing anywhere now. Like, he really was.
Yeah, he didn't say that in the press conference, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm barely paraphrasing when I say he came out and said, I don't really want to be here because there's no joy to be had, and I'll go anywhere else. And, the complexity is this idea of, like, what he does with his player option next year. Like, the reason for trading him is, would you put it past Jimmy Butler, as insane as it sounds, like, to obviously play out the rest of this year, maybe pout a little bit, maybe not, maybe be very professional about it, but then say, nah, I'm declining my player option, I'm just going to sign somewhere else. And then you're left saying, okay, maybe that's good if you're Miami, he's obviously off the books, but you could have got a young player like Kuminga back, or a prospect, or a draft pick, which teams I do believe still some teams would offer for Jimmy Butler if you're convinced he can take you sort of to the next level of a postseason run, which he has proven he's pretty damn impressive when it gets to the 16-game season.
How much are teams paying for a 35-year-old going to be 36-year-old when they lace him up next year? That's the question.
Right.
And that's why Jimmy Butler with the Miami Heat, they have some leverage to say, you want $50 million, bang, you got it. What are teams going to offer instead? 3 for 60? I mean, how much? 70, 80? It depends on the team, depends where they are. You can see why the Golden State Warriors, in theory, would make sense because they want to go for it right here, right now.
Right.
They're old, but
Right.
that could just go up in flames real quick, and they would be giving up a young star for him. So I don't know. That's why I think the Miami Heat they're just not going to find a deal for him.
Yeah, I guess within that, I think it was the Shams article. Maybe the straw that did finally break Jimmy Butler's back here was this implication from team officials about that one game that you said where he came back, didn't seem to be playing his hardest. And again, this is sort of like the rumors coming out of that camp. And I think, man, he takes offense to that more than anything, Trey. Like you said, his whole brand is, work hard and be the man. And like they're saying, you sort of do neither right now. And man, I really think he takes that to heart. And like, I think already it was done, and we've been talking about it for weeks now. This is inevitable, I believe, that he will be moved. And I don't think it's going to be the sexiest return. I think they'd be happy to get either a young player like Kuminga or a draft pick that's sexy enough. Yeah,
and we'll see what trades actually happen at the trade deadline. Obviously, we got a new CBA environment. Yeah. It's harder to find trades. Who knows who actually is going to do it? But it's kind of been, at this point, I guess, May was 7 months. It's been basically 8 months of Pat Riley saying you don't play enough and play hard enough for this team. It started with him saying you shouldn't say anything if you're not playing. Then he said we need our players to play. And now they are talking about we're not trading this guy. But that to me just seems like playing the media game. And negotiating in the media, because the first report after the first alleged short list of Jimmy Butler trade targets was he's mad that Pat Riley never said he wouldn't trade him. So then Pat Riley says, okay, I'm making a statement that everybody thinks is weird. That Pat Riley came out in the middle of the season and said, we're not trading Jimmy Butler. He's like, fine, trade me to any team. Like, so what's next? There's a whole nother month. You remember what happened to Minnesota. He didn't play. He came back with the third stringers. Yeah. Sign up Josh Richardson. Let's see what he's got. He can make it awkward. Jimmy's great at making it awkward.
I have a couple trade possibilities here by way of Tom Ziller that he threw in his newsletter this morning. I'll just chuck them at you. What about Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson to New Orleans for Zion Williamson and DeJounte Murray? Let's get crazy. Pelicans, potentially refresh Jimmy Butler. That's where a team he could be the man. He could be the dog. He could be the lead alpha guy.
Yes.
There's that. Okay, another one. This one, the Pistons acquire Jimmy Butler for Tobias Harris, Isaiah Stewart, and a pick. So the pick would be the key part for Miami.
Tobias Harris over me?
That's right.
I mean, Jimmy would be awesome for the Sixers or for the Pistons, and they just had Jaden Ivey go down with an injury. They could use him.
Yep. And then there is this final one here, which is sort of a wild thing, but at its core, it's Jimmy Butler to Denver for Michael Porter Jr. And you'd have a third team involved, and I won't go through all of the metrics of that, but Jimmy to Denver and Michael Porter Jr. out.
When you start to try and make it logical, a guy like Calvin Booth, who's running the Nuggets front office, would sort of make sense because he has made some odd moves the last couple of years, and making Jimmy a guy to try and go to the title sort of makes sense. All these things that we're talking about here, Pelicans, Pistons, there's the Nets one where Sean Marks didn't take on money for next year in the Dorian Finney-Smith deal,
right,
because it seemed like he wanted to push money onto someone. It could be Jimmy Butler. It's all those three teams, in Pelicans, Pistons, and Nets, are teams that they don't have a lot going on. So maybe you get a guy who's gone to the finals a couple of times, but I mean, after leaving the Bulls, when he left the Bulls, those are different times, man. What are you thinking of Jimmy to lead your team here? I mean, this is a guy who played way too much for Tom Thibodeau, game after game after game, and you're going to bank on him at the age of 36 to be your number one guy. I find that hard to believe. And all these reports of, hey, I want to go to 6 teams. And apparently he has said that I want to be traded. I mean, that he didn't come out and say I want to be traded, but according to all the sources, he said I want to be traded to all 29 other teams. It's odd. He's upset. He's pissed off. But it's a New Year's resolution. Let's talk to you. Let's work it out so you don't stand in the corners as much. Like he says, he's still playing defense. It's true. He plays defense, but he needs to be involved more in the offense and be a number 2 guy to Tyler Hero, really, on the offense. And that's hard for him to do, I guess.